talking this way.
Yeah, we're just talking. We're not this.
Get Paloma then.
Okay.
It's good timing.
So
She knows all my stuff. She's tired of hearing me. So,
these were just a couple like preliminary questions, and like we talked about I mean, I have to obviously give you like some kind of like introduction, but I'm thinking something like woman on the cutting edge, or like something like cool and
Yeah.
sharp and like
and can we start talking about consciousness too
yeah,
at the same time?
everything. Well, so that's where I kind of we kind of just dove right in. I showed my editor the other article, and I'm like, this is not what we want. This is like, you know what I
the
mean?
opposite,
This is
exactly.
so we it's like we know who who you are. We know obviously everyone's had their trials, tribulations, but that's not really what we're talking about. We want to talk about what's going on in the world, what's happening.
Yes.
So we started out a little bit like tell me a little bit about your experience as a woman on the cutting edge of the software technology. So I don't know do you want to verbally answer? Do you want to type? Do you want to have time to think about this? How do you want to do it?
Let me see.
Because
Show me the
so these are just some, like I said,
Questions.
preliminary questions, and then we can kind of go into it or talk about it, or
woman, yeah, in your mail.
and we don't have to say male dominated. I really don't like that now that I'm looking at it. So we want to talk about
best approach to mentoring. What is advice for mentoring? Okay. So this is mainly on, because we have to look at the purpose of your magazine, which
Right.
is STEM, right?
STEM,
so
right.
we want to talk about that. So let me see.
So, and I know you wanted to include the mentoring because I think that that's a really
Yes,
important
very
part,
important,
and
yes.
especially with the way STEM is these days, it's like there's such a misconception, like, oh, you have, this is what a programmer looks like. This is, you know what I mean? So I really think that being able to kind of open up and show, like,
Yeah. The two I want to talk about it because I don't really have mentors, so I can't really take my example.
you only have mentors, or
I don't really have.
but
So
see, I think that that's important,
Exactly.
you didn't have that, and that's why it's so important to you to
Exactly.
foster that
Yeah.
in others and be, have that
Yes.
for others. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That's why I kind of
I
included
do
that.
mentor, but I don't have really a mentor.
But I think,
And I
that,
should have used some, maybe. Yeah, so I can talk about that.
or even like, it's like, it's like maybe there wasn't anyone you could go to, and that's why
Yeah.
you want to like that's why it's like you're like digging out the path, you're
So-
creating something.
Exactly, and then sorry because I'm super tired. So on the magazine, what is this is specifically on woman mind, and do you have some on color and on things, or is it all woman this one, or is it?
No, this is diversity as a whole.
Yeah.
So we can talk about anything diversity, we can talk about
Everything.
anything STEM, STEAM, whatever you want to
Okay,
call it.
yeah.
That's why it's so cool,
But
because
the
it's really
theme
open.
of the magazine, there's nothing
STEAM.
special that
Diversity and
yeah.
STEAM. That's
okay,
what
I
it
just
is.
want to make sure I am in the context. So what, for example, we don't know what the cover is gonna talk about yet, right? I mean,
So for Mark Zuckerberg,
Zuckerberg.
we're gonna be trying see, because for him, like, I don't know if you know what's been going on in the press with him, but he's had some big controversy with people. Well, obviously, number one, there's the whole thing. There's not enough women in tech.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, none of them can
Yeah.
meet the numbers. And number two, there's not enough diversity. There's not enough minorities. African American, Hispanics. So, there's all these different. It's funny. I've been watching like BET.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Just to like kind of get
I
in,
don't even have TV.
just to kind of get in, like, to learn about like the culture, because it's crazy. Like, I don't know how it was, in Europe,
Yeah.
like around when you were growing up, but it's crazy to see the difference on, the way I was brought up compared to, someone who's a minority or African American.
Yeah.
Like, they live in like it's like a whole different world, the way they're
Yes.
the way they're brought up, like the way the women are treated, the way that the values are. I didn't even realize it was so different. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
But I think my background, because I was also a daughter of immigrants, it was also different. And because we had no money, it was also different.
Mm-hmm.
So we were already, I don't see diversity.
right.
Because diversity, that's one of the problems, is the word diversity. The word diversity. The word in itself means that there's a separation of groups.
Right.
And in reality, that's what we're trying to remove, and that should be really the oneness. The fact that you say diversity or inclusion, it means that somehow there's a group and we want to bring people in or include people in. So in itself, the word itself, when we say diversity, means we're forcing something into something that exists today. You know what I mean?
We're making
We're making groups.
Right.
Just the word itself, diversity. So there should be another word, really. And some people say inclusion, but same. Inclusion means you have a group and you also include other people.
Right.
Really, it should be transparency.
Right.
That should be a good word, or something where it's common. So something that's more grouping and not bringing a different somebody different into a different group. So
Right.
just the word diversity, when you say there is diversity, a lot of the people who don't understand diversity already think that, oh, so I have to make an effort to bring the other people into the group.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the assumption says there's one group and the others. And we're trying and we're telling them, please, we beg you, bring the other ones in the main group. So
Right.
there's already a position of superiority from the ones who are not considered diversity to have a settled position and to say, now I'm in power and I have the power to say yes or no to the other groups.
Right.
When in reality,
That
there's not
defeats the whole
such. That
purpose.
defeats the whole purpose. Diversity or inclusion does not reflect what we're trying to do.
Right.
We're just trying to be one group, and one group that really reflects the population of today. That's all we're trying to do, right? So there are two aspects of that. One is the population of today, which is different groups of people, but not because they're different groups, but because they're just different origins of people. But we still make one, but you have different origins or types within that, right?
Right.
And then, so that's the first point where you have to admit that there is this congregation of people and with different types. The second point is to say, okay, how do we now bring back the economy? So how do we do that? Think different than diversity now is by entrepreneurship. And that's always been the engine of US.
Mm-hmm.
So really it means we need to bring up the entrepreneur and help the entrepreneur grow so they can create jobs. Because the problem today is that if you work with big corporations that are international, a lot of them, especially in STEM, work with other countries, China, India, or that are a competition to US.
Right.
So we basically trying to boost the economy by working with the big corporation who are then sending the money back to these countries who are our competition. So
Right.
it's a no-ending loop.
Right.
So first state is we are a different type of people within one group, population, which is the population. Second is how do we grow the economy and boost it back is through entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do that? Who is the entrepreneur of today? Majority of the new companies are women. So
Right.
that's just logical. We're
Right.
not asking something extra to help woman entrepreneur or man entrepreneur. We're just looking at what's logical. So if you have this entrepreneur that can understand better the population, so now you close the loop and say, okay, we know we want to have the entrepreneur that are going to launch the economy again. For them to launch the economy, they need to be able to sell products that help the population and different type of people. So we need entrepreneur represents every type of the population, so they know what this type of people, that they understand the culture and everything, that they can sell to them what they need. And secondly, sell to these people, so these people who are the population of US will reinvest the money directly into the US economy.
Right.
That's the real issue, right?
Right, and I think it's like, I think it's nice because you have kind of like that world view on it too.
Yeah,
You know, being a woman
exactly.
entrepreneur, here in U.S., but you have, you know, roots and you work
And I work
internationally
all over the world,
so
in
you
Australia,
kind of get
New
to
Zealand,
see.
and I don't think they have the same issue. Why? Because it's always been a mixed population.
Right.
That's always been integrated. In Europe, we have a different issue, which is a religion issue. So it's a different opinion on religion. It's different. It has nothing to do with color and woman or male. It's just religion. But here in US, I think that's really the fourth step, because the fourth one, if you take it to the next level now, is where are we going? We're going into every single job or part of the company is linked to IT now. So if you look at the history of IT, right? First, it was a lot of programming and things like that,
Right.
and at least bring the company on a platform.
Right.
This was the ERP era.
Get them online, basically.
Get them online, get them that they can track everything, and that's when SAP and Oracle were there, and Salesforce and all that, right? So that was the first piece, and that's what we did, I would say, in the 90s.
Right.
in
And now
US.
everyone's online.
Now everyone is online. The second stage was, I remember, was data. We had too much data, and people wanted us to archive, which was interesting because at the time, every time we would try to archive, it would not necessarily work or would take too much money. And in parallel, the cost of the storage was going lower and lower. So at one point, it happened that buying more storage was cheaper than doing an archiving project,
Okay.
which actually was awesome.
What does storage mean?
Like to store the data,
files.
because with time, now all these companies keep bringing all the data, and it's too big data. It's too much for the company to manage.
Right.
So they're like, what do we do with? Okay, we want the last 3 years to see the trend, but we don't need the last 10, 15, 20 years, and it's
And
expensive.
these are in these big,
Yes.
these
yes.
big, huge,
Exactly. Imagine like these big data
like-
warehouses.
Yeah, like when you see
Yes.
on one of those Vegas shows where they walk in and there's like all
Exactly, right,
those
yeah.
big
But now,
okay.
if you think about it,
So they have to once it's full, you have to take it out and put it somewhere. Is that how it works? Or that's how it works? Kind of?
yeah, or you have to have more data. So what do you do with it? The question is, we can't keep piling this data because
Right.
it's expensive to store,
Okay.
to keep the data, right? It adds up to a space.
Right.
So luckily, actually, in parallel, then after that, what happened is the internet. And this changed the behavior of the consumer. Now the consumer has the choice on internet to pick. So the corporations can still do what they want to do, but a lot of the power came to the hands of the consumer, was the choice of the product, and can easily access the choice of the product. And this opened up a lot of new companies, because of startup and companies who have a mean of communicating their products to the population, who can also choose now and not just have a product per big corporation, right?
Right.
And then you add to that big data. So luckily, actually, the fact that we did not archive data is great, because now we can handle big data differently. So big data means that we can take any data and massage the data, and it's in-memory data. So the storage came down, it's easy to have all the data, and now we can look at the last 10 years trend, and we can say, which is brand new in the market, is let's do some proactive and predictive analysis, which says, based on what happened in the last 10 years, we can predict what can happen in the future with the consumers.
Right.
So let's take the medical field. Now they can do a correlation between people who are diabetic or other things based on data that they already had, but now it's much faster and easier to do, and they can say,
Access it easier.
Julie is in this category, we should tell her upfront, based on the predictive analysis we did, you fall into this category that have a 90% chance to have diabetes in 10 years. So you can proactively do something about it and save money, because you're not going to wait that you're sick to help you, but proactively tell you to change. If not, guess what? You're going to raise your insurance, because we have facts and we have things. But this applies in all the fields